Mercedes are sending a clear message to the F1, so we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is Mercedes send a warning to F1 that they are going to dominate in the 2024 season. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has pinpointed his hope for next year's Mercedes W15 as he looks to return to the front of F1. Hamilton hasn't stood on the top step of the podium since the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. In the same period, arch-rival Max Verstappen has won 29 times and is on course to take his 3rd consecutive title at this weekend's Qatar Grand Prix. In an interview with Blick, Hamilton explained why his hope for 2024 is that Mercedes take everything they've learned from this season into next year to mount a serious challenge. "I try to push myself to the limit in every race and believe in my team," he said. "But it's true, if you don't feel the balance in the car, your willingness to take risks becomes smaller. I hope that the amount of data we have collected so far this year will have an impact on the new car. That is the hope of the entire Mercedes team in all factories. We all have to always believe in our goals and never give up." Hamilton labeled his pole at the Hungaroring as the highlight of his 2023 season and vowed that his next victory would be the greatest triumph in his illustrious career. "Yes, that was a highlight," he added. "You try to be grateful for everything that successfully crosses your path when you go through such hard times. We'll be coming back. We can do it. The next step to the top podium will come, and it will probably be my greatest triumph in my career." Mercedes for the last 2 years is unable to replicate the success it saw for almost the entirety of the last decade. The majority of it is because they failed to bring out the suitable concept under the new regulation that could have maintained their dominance. But now, as per motorsport-total.com, as reported by Junaid on Twitter, McLaren, the rivals of Mercedes, boss Andrea Stella reveals that the Brackley-based team is set to make a giant leap next year, as according to him, they know what they have to do to succeed. Ever since the new aero regulations kicked off, Red Bull has by far the most dominant side. Others are yet to catch up. But the end of the 2023 season has shown that making a rapid progress isn't tough. And for next year, other teams are aiming to close the gap against Red Bull as much as possible. Therefore, amidst the mix, Mercedes, which is the closest side to Red Bull, would be fancying a shout in the title challenge. But for that, a lot of work needs to be done. With the last leg of the season going on, most of the teams have already started working on the next year's car. And seeing that in view, Stella thinks Mercedes is set to make a good rise in the order. "We must never forget Mercedes, because I think the team now knows which areas they need to work on," warns Stella and emphasizes, "I think the racing team will make a big leap." But on the other hand, there is not much optimism shared by the top brass at Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton don't even see his team challenging Red Bull for the 3rd year in a row. But what led to that pessimism? During the Japanese Grand Prix, Red Bull was at the top once again. Particularly, Mercedes was recording an almost 1-second time behind Max Verstappen per lap. Thus, reflecting on his team's progress, Hamilton doesn't think silver arrows would be challenging next year, though that isn't an isolated opinion on the grid. Even Charles Leclerc thinks about Ferrari in the same way, and believes Red Bull would have a seamless title win campaigns until the end of this regulations. The second story is, Mercedes are scared of Ferrari taking 2nd place in the current F1 season. Despite having a lot of expectations on their shoulders heading into 2023, Ferrari failed to deliver yet again. However, the recent upgrades saw the Maranello-based team make massive improvements. Currently, they are eyeing Mercedes' P2 spot in the constructors' standings. Now, after the Japanese GP, the Silver Arrows admitted to being threatened by the Italian team, as reported by motorsport.com. After starting the season behind Red Bull, Aston Martin and Mercedes, Charles Leclerc and company made slow but effective progress, which is now delivering results. At first, they overtook Aston Martin to take P3. Now they're right behind the Silver Arrows for P2. Admittedly, the race in Japan saw the duo of Leclerc and Sainz overcome their tire degradation problem by a huge margin. In doing so, they were able to salvage 4 points of their championship rivals. This has come as a big step forward for the team that has suffered from tire degradation all season long. The race at the difficult and demanding track of Suzuka gave Ferrari a better understanding of their car. Despite seeing predictions of poor results due to their tire-eating SF23, they finished the race ahead of Mercedes. Ferrari brought in a new floor for the 2023 Japanese Grand Prix. Therefore, their tire degradation was relatively better as they lasted 5 laps more than predicted. This is added to the pace advantage they already have on straight lines. Therefore, they now hold an edge over their German rivals. As Ferrari made such progress, Andrew Shovlin said, as per ItalianMotorsport.com, "We discovered that we were slightly behind Ferrari, who brought a new fund, and therefore they moved ahead of us. Given that the advantage we had in controlling tire degradation in the last few races is no longer visible." According to the report, Scuderia Ferrari brought in a new floor in the Japan race from the new funds they were allotted by the team. The height of the floor was a little higher, which resulted in more aerodynamic load. The combination of these led to less tire wear, which favored both Leclerc and Sainz, finished ahead of Hamilton and Russell, respectively. On this, Fred Vasseur, the Ferrari team principal, said, "Arriving at Suzuka with the high temperature of the track, we were a bit at risk. But in the end, I think we did a good job compared to the first part of the championship." While Mercedes feels they have lost out on their important advantage over Ferrari for the remaining races of the 2023 F1 season, the situation can get worse for the Toto Wolff-led team. As things stand, the points gap between the two teams is only 20 points, with Ferrari determined to nick second place away from the German team. Both Ferrari and Mercedes are doing their best in their respective factories to produce as potent a car as possible for the remaining races. In the end, it is going to come down to who can outdevelop the other. Moreover, the onus is also going to be on the drivers of both teams to do their part in obtaining their respective teams' targets. From a Mercedes point of view, they are currently the ones getting chased, and they would ideally want to keep things this way until the last race of the 2023 campaign. The upcoming tussles between the two teams are going to be a fascinating watch from the perspective of the neutrals. But when it comes to the fan base of both teams, it is going to be nothing short of a nerve-wracking affair. Lewis Hamilton renewed his contract with Mercedes this year. The renewal saga was very long, with multiple rumors about Hamilton's exit. One such rumor was that the 7-time champion was planning to join Ferrari. However, Hamilton has scratched the speculation and has revealed that the Maranello-based team did not even approach him. Hamilton said that he never even thought of making a move to Italy. He said that he knows a lot of people in Ferrari, and he did have casual conversations with them, but he was never approached with an offer. He stated that his talks with the team were totally irrelevant and were not instigative enough for him to consider a switch. Okay, we've definitely had a few irrelevant conversations. I know a lot of good people there, but I never felt ready to move to Italy. Hamilton told Blick. Hamilton signed a new deal at the same time as George Russell in September. The duo's new contracts will see them staying at Mercedes for 2 more seasons. Mercedes will have to work extensively on their car after the 2023 season ends if Hamilton is to take home his 8th title before retirement. The third story is, Red Bull knows Mercedes can come back to dominate F1 soon. While a lot has already been said about Mercedes' woes, Christian Horner has claimed that Mercedes will be back in the title fight at some point. The Mercedes Formula One team was the top dog at the pinnacle of motor racing during the turbo hybrid era. But since the new regulations have kicked in, the German outfit has fallen off of its pedestal, further struggling massively to keep pace with Red Bull in the title fight. Red Bull decimated its competition during the 2022 F1 season after facing some initial resistance from the Ferrari F1 team. Moreover, when it comes to the ongoing campaign, they have taken their level of dominance to a whole new level, with Max Verstappen brilliantly leading the team's charge. Red Bull secured the 2023 Constructors' Championship during the Japanese GP weekend. Christian Horner is aware of the woes that Mercedes has faced since last year, but believes that they have everything at their disposal to come back roaring into the World Championship fight. While shedding light on the same, Horner said, "I haven't seen much of him recently. So, of course, there's competition and needles, but there's also a respect, and that's important. They're a great team. They're a big team. They've achieved record-breaking form in so many areas. We don't underestimate them. They'll be back at some point for sure. I'm sure then Toto will have plenty to say." The Brit has acknowledged the might of the Mercedes team and is not taking Red Bull's reign over Formula One for granted. The current Formula One season has not been without its share of intriguing developments, and the evolving power dynamic between Lewis Hamilton and George Russell at Mercedes has been the focus of much debate. Peter Windsor, an experienced motorsport figure and former manager at Ferrari and Williams, recently drew attention to the delicate balance within Mercedes on his YouTube channel. He speculated that if it had been up to Lewis Hamilton, George Russell might not be in the Mercedes cockpit. According to Windsor, seven-time world champion Hamilton has been vocal about his desire to continue with former teammate Valtteri Bottas, and has urged team principal Toto Wolff to keep him beyond 2021. Hamilton had forged a harmonious relationship with Bottas, and their synergy produced an era of formidable performances. They managed to maintain a professional camaraderie, respecting each other's pace and working together to further the team's ambitions, in contrast to the palpable tension that now exists between Hamilton and Russell.